Welcome to Certified Data Engineer Associate DEA-C01 Practice Exam number 18. You'll get 30 exam-style questions. I will read each question, then give you a 10-second countdown to review the answer choices on screen. Feel free to pause the video if you need longer. After each countdown, I will reveal the correct answer and explanation. Question 1. A data engineer at Contoso Media is building a pipeline to process clickstream data. The data arrives as nested JSON with varying schemas. Non-technical business analysts need to clean and normalize the data before it is loaded into Redshift. The solution must require no coding and provide visual data profiling. Which AWS service should the data engineer recommend? Select one. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option B. AWS Glue Data Brew is a visual, no-code data preparation tool with over 250 built-in transformations specifically designed for non-technical users such as business analysts. Data Brew provides interactive data profiling that shows statistics, value distributions, missing data patterns, and correlations. Users can create recipes with transformations like handling missing values, deduplication, normalization, and joining datasets through a point-and-click interface. Glue ETL with dynamic frames requires writing PySpark or Scala code, which does not meet the no-coding requirement. Amazon EMR with Spark notebooks requires significant coding expertise and cluster management. Lambda functions with custom Python require coding and do not provide visual data profiling capabilities. Question 2. Adatum Corp operates a data lake on Amazon S3. The data engineering team needs to track all write operations, put object, delete object, copy object, to a specific S3 bucket named Financial Transactions for compliance auditing. The solution must capture the IAM identity, performing each operation and store logs for 7 years, with the ability to run SQL queries against the audit data. Which approach meets these requirements with the least operational effort? Select 2. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answers are option A and option C. AWS CloudTrail data events for S3 write operations capture detailed information including the IAM identity, source IP, timestamp, and exact API call for every write operation on the specific bucket. CloudTrail Lake provides a managed SQL query engine over event data stores with configurable retention up to 10 years, meeting the 7-year retention and SQL query requirements with minimal operational effort. S3 Server Access Logging provides less detail than CloudTrail data events and does not reliably capture IAM identity information for all access patterns. CloudWatch Logs with metric filters can monitor for patterns, but is not designed for long-term compliance auditing with SQL query capability over 7 years. S3 Event Notifications capture events, but do not include the detailed IAM identity and request metadata required for compliance auditing. Question 3. Tailspin Logistics processes shipment tracking events through an Amazon MSK cluster. The data engineer needs to configure the cluster for high durability of messages while maintaining strong write availability. The cluster has 6 brokers across 3 availability zones. Which combination of Apache Kafka configuration settings should the data engineer use? Select 1. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option C. Setting replication factor to 3 ensures each partition has 3 copies distributed across brokers in different availability zones, providing fault tolerance against the loss of up to 2 replicas. Setting min.insync replicas to 2 with AX equals all requires the producer to wait for acknowledgement from at least 2 replicas before considering a write successful, ensuring strong durability while still allowing 1 replica to be temporarily unavailable. A replication factor of 2 with min.insync replicas of 1 provides weaker durability guarantees. Setting min.sync replicas equal to replication factor 3 of 3 means any single broker failure would make the topic unavailable for writes, severely impacting availability. A replication factor of 1 with AX equals 0 provides no durability guarantees and risks message loss. Question 4. A company added a new SQL report comparing current year Redshift sales data against historical data stored in S3, causing slower query performance. The company wants to serve the report efficiently without complex data movement. Which solution is most efficient? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option C. Redshift materialized views pre-compute and store the results of a query joining Redshift tables with Redshift Spectrum external tables pointing to historical S3 data. The refresh materialized view command updates the stored results, and subsequent report runs read from the pre-computed view instead of re-executing the expensive join, dramatically reducing query latency. The view can be configured for incremental refresh, keeping results current at low cost. Creating a new merge table via Spectrum join materializes a static copy that requires regular refresh logic and storage management. Unloading data to S3, then querying it with Spectrum moves data unnecessarily and creates multiple tables to manage. Importing historical S3 data into Redshift with copy is resource-intensive and increases cluster storage costs for data that is infrequently accessed. Question 5. Tailspin Media uses Amazon Data Firehose to deliver clickstream data to Amazon S3. The team wants to partition the S3 output by user country extracted from each JSON record, with the data converted to Parquet format. After configuring dynamic partitioning with JQ expressions and Parquet format conversion, the data engineer notices the minimum buffer interval is 60 seconds, and buffer size must be between 64-100 and 28 MB. The team wants to reduce the buffer interval to 10 seconds. What should the data engineer do? Select one. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option D. When Amazon Data Firehose is configured with dynamic partitioning, the minimum buffer interval is 60 seconds regardless of other settings. Additionally, when Parquet or ORC format conversion is enabled, the buffer size range is restricted to 64-100 and 28 MB. These are hard constraints of the Firehose service that cannot be overridden. Zero buffering, 0-second buffer, is only supported for S3 destinations without dynamic partitioning enabled. Disabling dynamic partitioning would lose the user country-based partitioning requirement. Switching to raw JSON would remove format conversion constraints on buffer size, but would not reduce the dynamic partitioning minimum interval below 60 seconds. Question 6. Tailspin Travel uses Amazon S3 for their data lake and must comply with strict data residency regulations. They need to replicate booking data from their ACIS-1 bucket to a bucket in EUS-1 for the European operations team. The replication must include existing objects that were uploaded before replication was configured. Both buckets use SSCKMS encryption with customer-managed keys. Which combination of steps must the data engineer perform? Select 2. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answers are option A and option B. S3 cross-region replication, CRR, requires versioning to be enabled on both the source and destination buckets as a prerequisite. Existing objects uploaded before the replication rule was created are not automatically replicated by CRR. S3 batch replication must be used to replicate these pre-existing objects. Using the AWS/S3 managed KMS key for cross-account or cross-region replication with KMS encryption is problematic because AWS managed keys cannot be shared across regions. Customer-managed KMS keys must be used in the destination region, and the replication configuration must reference the destination KMS key. disabling encryption is unnecessary and would violate security best practices. A standard CRR rule only replicates new objects written after the rule is active, not existing objects. Question 7. A data engineer configures an AWS Glue job to read from an S3 bucket, but receives an error indicating problems with the Amazon S3 VPC gateway endpoint. Which solution resolves this error? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option A. An S3 VPC gateway endpoint enables private connectivity between resources in a VPC and Amazon S3 without traversing the public internet. For the endpoint to function, the VPCS route table must contain a route entry that directs S3 destined traffic through the gateway endpoint. Without this route, traffic cannot reach S3 through the endpoint even if the endpoint itself is configured correctly, producing the error the data engineer observed. Updating security group inbound rules is irrelevant because VPC gateway endpoints for S3 do not use security groups. They are controlled through endpoint policies and route tables. An S3 bucket policy grants or denies permissions to specific principals, but does not resolve routing errors caused by missing route table entries. Reviewing the Glue job code for fully qualified domain names addresses a DNS resolution issue, not a VPC routing configuration problem. Question 8. A data engineer at a datum retail is designing an Amazon Redshift data warehouse. The fact table has 2 billion rows and is frequently joined with a 500-row product dimension table and a 10 million row customer dimension table. The data engineer needs to optimize join performance. Which combination of distribution styles should the data engineer apply? Select 2. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answers are option A and option B. The 500-row product dimension table should use all distribution to replicate the entire table on every compute node, enabling local joins with the fact table without network data movement. The 10 million row customer dimension table should use key distribution on customer ID, matching the fact table's distribution key on the same column, so rows that need to be joined are collocated on the same node. Even distribution on the fact table would scatter data randomly, requiring network shuffling for every join. Auto distribution lets Redshift decide, but may not optimize as effectively for well-understood join patterns with known table sizes. Key distribution on the product dimension table is unnecessary because at 500 rows, all distribution is more efficient and avoids skew. Question 9. A data analyst needs to perform complex data processing in Amazon Redshift using a custom function as part of a SQL query with the least effort and overhead. Which option should the analyst choose? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option D. Amazon Redshift supports creating scalar UDFs using either a SQL select clause or a Python program directly within the database. Once created, the UDF is invoked within SQL queries exactly like any built-in function, with no additional infrastructure, frameworks, or deployment steps required. Python UDFs can import custom modules, providing significant flexibility for complex transformations. EMR requires provisioning a cluster, writing processing code, executing the job, and importing results back into Redshift, multiple steps involving a separate service entirely. Athena UDFs via the Query Federation SDK require writing Java code, packaging it into a jar, deploying it as a Lambda function, and configuring the Athena to Redshift integration, which represents substantial multi-service setup work for what should be a database-level function. Creating a function in AWS Glue and accessing it from Redshift requires registering it in the Glue data catalog via CLI and then configuring the Redshift to Glue connection, adding unnecessary complexity compared to a native Redshift UDF. Question 10. Northwind Traders uses Amazon DynamoDB to store customer session data. items have a TTL attribute set to expire after 24 hours. The application team reports that some expired items are still appearing in query results even after the TTL timestamp has passed. What explains this behavior? Select 1, review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option D. DynamoDB TTL deletions are handled by a background process and are not immediate. After an item's TTL timestamp passes, it may take up to 48 hours for the item to actually be deleted from the table. During this period, the expired item still appears in query and scan results. Applications should include a filter condition on the TTL attribute to exclude expired items from results if immediate exclusion is required. If TTL were not enabled on the table, no items would ever be automatically deleted, but the question states TTL is configured with an attribute set on items. The TTL attribute must be a number type containing an epoch timestamp, not a string type. TTL deletions occur as a continuous background process during normal operations, not only during backups. Question 11. A datum supply chain runs an Apache Airflow workflow on Amazon MWAA to orchestrate their daily ETL pipeline. The DAG uses the glue job operator to trigger AWS glue ETL jobs. After deploying a new DAG file to the S3 DAG/folder, the data engineer notices the DAG does not appear in the Airflow UI after 2 minutes. What is the most likely cause? Select 1, review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option C. Amazon MWAA synchronizes new DAG files from the S3 DAG/folder approximately every 300 seconds, 5 minutes. Since only 2 minutes have passed since upload, the MWAA environment has not yet completed the sync cycle. The data engineer should wait the full 5 minutes before troubleshooting further. While a Python syntax error could prevent a DAG from loading, the DAG would still be processed by the scheduler and would show parsing errors in the Airflow UI. If the execution role lacked S3 read permissions, existing DAGs would also fail to load, not just the new one. DAG files must be placed in the DAG/folder, not the plugin/folder, but the question states the file was correctly uploaded to DAG/. Question 12. Fabricam Research stores genomics datasets in Amazon S3 using Parquet format. The data is partitioned by study year, organism, and sample type, resulting in over 500,000 partitions. Athena queries that filter on these partitions experience significant planning latency due to Glue Data Catalog GetPartition API calls. Which Athena feature should the data engineer implement to eliminate the partition lookup overhead? Select 1, review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option B. Partition projection defines partition schemes directly in table properties, allowing Athena to calculate partition values mathematically instead of making GetPartition API calls to the Glue Data Catalog. For tables with hundreds of thousands of partitions, this eliminates the significant planning latency caused by catalog lookups. Partition projection supports integer, date, enum, and injected types for defining value patterns. Partition indexes in the Glue Data Catalog improve filtering efficiency, but still require API calls to the catalog, which becomes a bottleneck at 500,000 plus partitions. Apache Iceberg tables track partitions in metadata files rather than the Glue catalog, which could help, but the migration effort is much larger than enabling partition projection. Athena workgroups control cost and access, but do not provide DPU allocation settings that affect query planning speed for partition resolution. Question 13. Contoso Financial runs an Amazon EMR cluster for daily risk calculation jobs using Apache Spark. The cluster has 3 core nodes and 10 task nodes. The core nodes use on-demand instances, while task nodes use spot instances. During peak market hours, spot interruptions cause task node terminations, and Spark application master processes occasionally fail, requiring full job restarts. What should the data engineer do to prevent application master failures while maintaining cost optimization? Select 1, review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option A. Yarn node labels allow EMR to schedule application master processes exclusively on core nodes, which run on stable on-demand instances. When task nodes running on spot instances are interrupted, only executor processes are lost, and the application master survives to reschedule work on remaining or new nodes. This prevents full job restarts while maintaining cost savings from spot instances on task nodes. Replacing all spot task nodes with on-demand instances eliminates cost optimization benefits. Increasing core nodes to 10 is unnecessarily expensive since core nodes store HDFS data and cost more than task nodes. EMR managed scaling adjusts capacity, but does not prevent application master placement on spot instances. Question 14. A data engineer at a Datum Corp is migrating a 10 TB Oracle database with lob columns containing PDF documents, average 8 MB each, to Amazon S3 using AWS DMS. The migration must complete within a 48-hour maintenance window. The data engineer notices that the migration is progressing slowly due to the lob columns. Which DMS configuration should the data engineer use to optimize migration speed? Select 1, review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option D. Inline lob mode provides the best balance of performance and data integrity for this scenario. It processes lob data inline without the separate lob lookup that slows full lob mode for documents up to the specified inline size. Since the average PDF is 8 MB and the inline size is set to 10 MB, most documents will be processed efficiently inline. Documents exceeding the inline size fall back to full lob mode to ensure no data loss. Full lob mode performs a separate lookup for every lob column value, which is significantly slower because each lob requires an individual read from the source database. With 10 TB of data containing many lob columns, this approach would likely exceed the 48-hour window. Limited lob mode truncates documents exceeding the specified size, which would cause data loss for any PDFs larger than the configured limit. Excluding lob columns and using DataSync adds complexity since DataSync is designed for file system transfers, not database lob extraction, and would require custom logic to associate files with database records. Question 15. A logistics firm processes shipment data daily using Apache Spark on S3 to calculate delivery performance statistics, also stored in S3, and then notifies the operations team. The team wants to minimize operational overhead. Which 2 steps implement this pipeline correctly? Select 2, review the answer choices on screen. The correct answers are option A and option D. A step functions workflow with task states for EMR serverless, a glue crawler, and SNS covers the complete pipeline. EMR serverless runs the Spark job against S3 data without requiring cluster provisioning. The glue crawler registers the output schema in the data catalog, so results are queryable with SQL tools like Athena, and the SNS task publishes the completion notification to the operations team. An event bridge scheduled rule with a cron expression triggers this workflow automatically every day with no manual intervention, creating a fully serverless, managed pipeline with minimal operational overhead. Event Bridge Scheduler can trigger individual AWS resources, but does not directly execute directed acyclic graphs associated with Apache Airflow, making this option architecturally incorrect for the described workflow. Using Lambda to import data into Redshift and run Spark via the Redshift Spark integration adds unnecessary data movement since the data is already in S3 and the analytics output should remain there. Amazon MWAA requires provisioning and managing an airflow environment, introducing more operational overhead than the fully serverless step functions and event bridge combination. Question 16. A data engineering team in the tutorials account needs to configure an Oz Glue crawler to catalog VPC flow logs stored in an S3 bucket in the Dojo account. Which 3 actions are required? Select 3, review the answer choices on screen. The correct answers are option A and option B and option F. Cross-account S3 access for a glue crawler requires 3 coordinated configurations. The glue crawler in the tutorials account must be pointed at the specific S3 bucket path in the Dojo account, which is done through the crawler's data store configuration. The glue crawler's execution role in the tutorials account must have IAM permissions granting it the ability to perform S3 read operations on the Dojo account bucket, establishing the identity-based permission. The S3 bucket policy in the Dojo account must explicitly allow the specific IAM role, ARN, from the tutorials account to read from the bucket, establishing the resource-based permission. Both the identity-based and resource-based permissions are required for cross-account S3 access to succeed. Direct Connect is for on-premises to Oz private connectivity and is irrelevant for inter-account S3 access over the Oz internal network. VPC endpoints for S3 improve internal VPC routing within the same account but do not enable cross-account access. Oz RAM shares specific Oz resource types but does not natively support sharing S3 buckets for cross-account glue crawler access. Question 17. 2 Amazon Redshift clusters are used by an analytics team and a reporting team. The reporting team needs near real-time access to specific datasets from the analytics team's cluster for a quick site dashboard. Which solution has the least impact on the analytics team's cluster? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option B. Amazon Redshift data sharing allows the analytics cluster to share live, read-only data directly with the reporting cluster without copying or moving any data. The reporting team queries the most current data in real time, and there is no additional load on the analytics cluster beyond the original write operations. Unloading data to S3 via Redshift Spectrum requires the analytics cluster to execute the unload command, adding workload and introducing latency before the reporting team can access current data. Oz DMS continuous replication adds ongoing operational load to the analytics cluster as a source endpoint. Materialized views in the analytics cluster consume additional storage and compute resources on that cluster to maintain and refresh. Question 18. A data engineer at a Datum Corp needs to process a batch of 50,000 small JSON files stored in an S3 prefix using AWS step functions. Each file must be processed independently by a Lambda function. The engineer needs to maximize parallel processing throughput. Which step functions configuration should the data engineer use? Select one, review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option A. The distributed map state is specifically designed for large-scale parallel processing and supports reading items directly from an S3 data source. It can launch up to 10,000 parallel child executions and supports item batching to group multiple files per child execution, making it ideal for processing 50,000 files efficiently. An inline map state is limited to approximately 40 concurrent iterations and cannot directly reference S3 as a data source for large item sets. A parallel state requires each branch to be statically defined in the state machine definition and cannot dynamically scale to 50,000 branches. A standard map state with max concurrency of 1,000 would exceed the inline map limits and still cannot match the throughput of a distributed map state. Question 19. Northwind Analytics has a data lake with over 2,000 tables in the AWS Glue data catalog. the security team needs to implement access control so that data analysts in different departments can only access tables relevant to their business unit. Currently, there are 50 analysts across 8 departments, and new tables are added weekly. The team wants to minimize ongoing administrative effort as new tables and analysts are onboarded. Which lake formation approach should the team implement? Select one, review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option B. LFTAGs, tag-based access control, in lake formation are designed exactly for this scenario. By defining a department LFTAG key with values for each business unit and assigning tags to databases and tables, new tables automatically inherit tags from their parent database. Permission grants are based on tag expressions rather than individual resources, so adding a new analyst only requires granting them the appropriate tag expression. The named resource method requires individual grants per analyst per table, resulting in 50 x 2000 equals 100,000 grant operations versus a much smaller number with LF tags. IAM policies for data catalog resources lack the fine-grained data permissions that lake formation provides. Separate accounts per department adds massive operational overhead and complexity far beyond what is needed. Question 20. Tailspin Media runs an Amazon Aurora MySQL database for their content management system. The development team frequently needs to test schema changes against production data without affecting the production cluster. Rolling back failed schema changes on the production cluster currently takes hours due to point-in-time recovery, creating a new cluster. Which Aurora feature should the data engineer recommend to enable rapid rollback of schema changes on the production cluster? Select one, review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option A. Aurora Backtrack, available for MySQL only, allows rewinding the existing cluster to any point within a configurable window of up to 72 hours, completing in minutes rather than hours. Unlike point-in-time recovery, Backtrack does not create a new cluster, but rewinds the existing one in place, making it ideal for rapid rollback of failed schema changes. It must be enabled at cluster creation time. Promoting a read replica creates a standalone cluster and does not roll back the original production cluster. Manual snapshots require creating a new cluster from the snapshot, which takes hours for large databases. Aurora Global Database is designed for disaster recovery across regions, not for rolling back application-level changes. That is the end of practice exam number 18. Review the questions you missed, then come back for the next batch.